The history of art. The construction of the panel. During all seasoning, the wood cell structure moves, flexes unevenly. Where you might have a perfectly level joint and smooth, even finish prior to additional seasoning, further drying off might change the wood's finish. This additional seasoning can take any number of weeks to make the panel suitable for placing into a well-heated interior room. The applications of size, gesso, tracing, sketching, colouring, varnishing and gluing a material back cover will give the wood additional time to acclimatise. Even so, care should be taken to slowly bring the finished article into a centrally heated atmosphere. The importance of correct drying out, seasoning, cannot be overemphasized. Any wood product must be seasoned appropriately for its eventual final position. Unseasoned wood is prone to decay, warp and split. All timber has a degree of moisture within its cell structure. For our project, this moisture should be extracted by the time the final application of varnish is made. When moisture is withdrawn, the cell walls shrink. This is most apparent where the growth rings are. For our panel, these rings are along the longest sides. Uneven shrinkage is the cause of splits, shakes, checks and twisting. The ends of our cut wood is where most moisture escapes. This may be reduced by covering the ends. However, this may show in the face of the panel. Once the timber has passed fibre saturation point, greater movement follows. A number of factors affect the strength of any timber: place of tree growth, method of cutting, and where the tree is grown relative to landscape. Redwoods are a more primitive plant than hardwoods. There are two types of cells: elongated cells arranged in radial rows past the tree's food, and cell-cubed shapes which store the food. The resin canals store resin that is secreted to keep the cell structure flexible. When seasoned, there is a tendency for the wood to become discoloured by bluing. Applying the gesso. The object of applying gesso, to provide a permanent smooth surface, allow a certain amount of scraping back to make corrections. Give a surface that will hold a low carved relief effect. Successfully take up the paint's vehicle and to make sure the paint's pigment adheres to the surface. Before the gesso is applied, the wood surface is primed using rabbit skin glue, which is available as a powder or granular, its more popular form. A number of coats of size and gesso applied to the panel. Both the size and gesso need a binder, either parchment clippings, and in this case high-quality animal skin glue. There is no need to worry about the mixture becoming solid, rancid or acid. Once mixed, the rabbit glue will last for as long as it is necessary for this project. A cupful of rabbit skin granules placed in a bowl. Pour in an equal amount of cold boiled water to cover. Leave to soak, fatten overnight. In the morning the granules will be puffy and swollen, lumped together. Now place the bowl into a saucepan of water with 2 further cupfuls of water in the mixture. The glue to gently heat, stirring occasionally until runny, without any lumps. Do not boil, for this weakens the composition and causes bubbles. Once reduced, free from lumps, this becomes the stock mixture. This is the basis for all glues, size primers and gesso, and is kept in its basin without the heating pan. This stock mixture should be of sufficient quantity to complete the whole job. For our job, to cover a panel 30 by 20 inches, a cupful of granules to 3 cupfuls of water, quite sufficient. Scraping and sanding. You may think that the surface you have prepared is reasonably level and free from faults. Once you start painting, however, it will soon become apparent that there are many uneven areas. This will disappoint and cause you concern if serious, and that is why it's so important that you paint evenly and consistently, applying the gesso in coats laid at right angles to each other. Your design and painting will dictate how much unevenness the job will stand. Already the job has taken you 10 days with considerable preparations and careful handling. Make sure you do not allow yourself to be too hurried, lose patience, or make serious errors, damage the surface. There's no need for the whole surface of the wood to be as even as plate glass. The painting will cover up a certain amount of discrepancies. Once the surface has been prepared to accept the drawing, cover to protect the surface. Only leave clear that part to be worked on. The surface of the gesso, once painted and left to dry, will be smooth, if slightly uneven. If you sand the surface, it is best to polish afterwards using a damp cloth to work up a new surface. This is known as water polishing. I advise to leave well alone, if possible, relying upon a good even application of gesso in the correct manner. Either applying watercolor paints to dry plaster, fresco, or bunafresco, wet plaster, is a demanding occupation because the painter has to know what hue the color will return to when dry. Fresco, the application of watercolor paint for interior work, and bunafresco for exterior work, applying paint to recently applied plaster before it's dried. On dried plaster, the paint vehicle, water, is sucked into the porous plaster, leaving the pigment on or close to the surface. On a damp surface, both the vehicle and the pigment taken into the plaster makes a longer lasting finish.